I'm Lila, and here are all of the books I read in May of 2026. For the books of the Bible I read this month, I read Hebrews and James, and then for the fiction books I read, the first one is Fae and Flames by Sophia Simpson. This book is a Regency-inspired fantasy, romance, or romantasy, and it is so fun and whimsical and cute, and it was just such a good time. This book is following a Fae prince named Duke who is building the first ever flying machine secretly, though, because he does not want anyone to know, because he doesn't want to disappoint his family and not live up to social expectations and everything. Then we're also following a palace maid who needs to get her hands on some vampire venom, which is the only cure to save her sick mother. After Alora finds the prince building his little flying machine in his hidden bunker, she ends up blackmailing him into paying her for her secrecy. Meaning if he does not pay her enough for the vampire venom that she needs, she's going to tell the whole kingdom about his secret flying machine building. So that's the premise of this story, and I ended up rating this book 4.5 stars. I thought it was a really fun time, and I enjoyed it. It just had a whimsical, fun, cozy, magical vibe, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. This book was also very clean with no spice and no language, and there was also some Christian themes in it too, which I really enjoyed. And so if this book sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend it, and I'm really grateful to have received an advanced reader copy of it. The next book I read was 20 Something Else by Stephanie Mack. I got a copy of this book for free from NetGalley, and unfortunately, it wasn't really for me. I rated it 2.5 stars. I think this book is a classic case of good concept but not great execution. For what this book is actually about, we are following a 39-year-old woman who is about to turn 40 years old. But on the day before her 40th birthday, she gets knocked out playing pickleball. And instead of waking back up on the pickleball court, she has been given the opportunity by God to relive her 20s, except instead of meeting her husband at 21, she doesn't meet him, and so she just could see what her life would be if she didn't get married and by default did not have kids. And so I think that is an interesting concept. However, I just didn't really like the way that it played out, especially because God was part of this story, and it was God that sent her back in time to relive her 20s. I just didn't like that aspect of the story. It just didn't feel true to who God is, in my opinion, because our main character was told that she was allowed to date and explore other relationships, and that was weird to me, especially because while she wasn't technically married in her reliving of her 20s, she's still the same person and she was married, and so it just doesn't seem like something God would do, especially because of how sacred marriage is in the Bible and everything, and the way it's presented. That just doesn't line up, in my opinion. And so I just wasn't fond of that. And then also, I didn't like all the pop culture references. I understand it was there so you could know what year she was in, but it was really overdone, and I was just kind of tired of it. I was okay, we get it. I don't need to hear anything else about pop culture. And then also, I don't understand why the main character was so desperate to relive her 20s, because she had a good life. She was successful, she had kids, she had her dream career, she was happy, she should have been happy. I don't understand why she was so discontent with her life and so ungrateful for it, and she was all my marriage is falling apart, when literally all she had to do was just talk to her husband. They could have easily fixed their relationship. There wasn't really, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me why she was so discontent with her life and just so ungrateful for it, and it was kind of annoying. So like I said, good concept, not great execution. Maybe you would enjoy this book more if you're about to turn 40 or something, but still, I just don't like how this story played out. Then the next book, which I also happened to get from NetGalley, is called More Than Friends by Denise Hunter. Now, believe it or not, this book I also rated 2.5 stars. I just didn't really like the execution of this either. I just wasn't a fan of the story, honestly. This is like a friends to lovers romance thing, like childhood best friends to lovers, and it just didn't really work for me because we're kind of just told that the main characters are best friends. They don't really like do anything together. They're kind of just, they don't act like best friends. Like, I don't understand why they were best friends, but we're just told they're best friends. They're inseparable since childhood, and I just didn't see it. I think we could have used like some flashbacks or something from their childhood, or just like more of their interactions, because I just didn't buy their friendship, and so by default I didn't buy their romance. I also feel like the romance was kind of cringy, and the characters were a little dry too, like they just were kind of boring, and it just didn't hit for me. I just didn't really enjoy it, and I just couldn't get behind the friendship because it didn't really feel like it existed. And the romance, I didn't like the way they like got together, and so it was just not for me. You know, it was not for me. Maybe if this is your thing, if this book is your thing, you might enjoy it, but for me personally, I didn't enjoy it. And then we took a full 180 from that, and I read The Great Gatsby. Okay, I read this for school like last year or maybe the year before. I don't even know what grade I was in. I don't know what year it was. I just remember that I read this for school one time, and I hated it with a passion, with a burning passion, and it was absolutely horrible. I hated these characters, I hated the story, I hated the writing, I hated everything about it. Then I reread it like a year later, maybe a few months later. I don't even know. I have no concept of time. I read this at some point later, and I rated it 3.5 stars. I could tell that this book was like actually good quality, but I still just didn't really enjoy it. Then after reading it, I had nothing but fond memories of it, but I was like, wait, I thought I hated reading this like while I read it. Like, I could tell it was good quality, but I still didn't enjoy it, so why do I have fond memories of it and I want to read it? So this month I reread it again, and guess what? Now it's 5 stars and I love it, and this is one of my favorite books ever, and I have no idea why. I just love it. Like, the writing is just good. Like, it's what am I trying to say? This is just a good quality book, okay? I love the writing and the way the story is told, and just, it's so interesting. Like, I just love watching the drama of rich people with no morals at all. It was just a fun time, okay? And I read it pretty fast, and it was just, I literally loved this book, and I don't even know why. It could honestly be that I read it so many times I have no choice but to love it. Like, I kind of just forced myself to like it, but I do feel like I genuinely liked it this time around, so I don't really know what happened with that. So yeah, 5 stars. I really enjoyed it this time around, and if you like classics or books set in like the roaring 20s, give this a shot if you haven't already read it, because it's good, okay? If on the other hand you are not into classics or books like this at all, you won't like it. You know, I don't think you will enjoy this book, but like I said, if it is something you like, check it out because it's good. I will give a quick warning though, this book does have like some language in it. I have a review on like Goodreads and Fable with like listing out how much is actually in it, but just so for now, there is some language in this book, and nobody has any morals at all, okay? It's one of those things that you just kind of gotta know that these people are crazy and just sit in judgment of them on it. no, but like, it just know that these people have terrible morals, okay? And I'm not condoning this behavior or anything. Like, if you're young and impressionable, probably don't read this book because it's not going to be a good influence on you. So check out that review if you like want to know more specifics, but if it seems like stuff that you are okay with overlooking, give this book a shot. Then the last book I read this month was Just Friends by Haley Pham. I have a whole reading vlog for this book, so if you want to hear more, check it out. But for now, I will just say that I rated this book 4 stars. I thought it was really good. I think Haley has a lot of potential as a writer, as an author. She just has a good writing style, and I think the more that she writes, the better and better it will get. She has some really great lines in here. There were a few lines that felt a little too try-hard, you know, like they were trying too hard to be like good writing when it didn't need to be. But other than that, I think this is a good quality book. I think the main girl, Blair, feels really realistic. Declan doesn't really seem realistic. He seemed a little bit too good to be true, and I would have liked it if he felt more like a real person. While this is a romance book, it does also follow a lot of themes of like grief and loss, and I think that that aspect of it was really well handled. So if you want a romance but you also want a deep and emotional story, I recommend this book, especially if you want a clean one, because there was no spice at all in this book. The romance was very clean and there was little to no language in it. Again, check out my reading blog if you want to hear more. Okay, those were all of the books I read in May. If you want to know anything more about my thoughts on these books or the content in these and like trigger warnings and stuff, check out my reviews on Goodreads and Fable. I have way more in-depth thoughts and the content of these books listed out. Basically anything that could bother you, I talk about in those reviews. Be on the lookout for my next videos. I have some plans. I know I say that in like every video, but I have some planned and they will come out someday in the future, maybe. So yeah, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.